This is Healthcare Now Radio's Talking the Walk. Come along with us as host Tom Testa and his guests discuss the strides being made toward actionable changes in the industry. It's a fast-paced 30 minutes, so keep up. And now, here's Tom Testa.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talking the Walk. I'm your host, Tom Testa. This show is all about diving into real conversations that inspire, challenge, and move us forward. Joining me today is Evan Steele. He's the founder and CEO of Rater8. Evan's career in healthcare technology spans 25 years. He was a medical practice administrator for 9 years before becoming the founder and CEO of SRS Health. They're an electronic health records company focused on specialty physician practices. His focus on software ergonomics and passion for customer service has enabled high-volume specialty physicians and practices to operate at peak efficiency, and he now brings that same dedication to Rater8, the leader in healthcare reputation management. Evan, welcome to Talking the Walk.
All right, thank you. Great to be here today.
Great to have you, Evan. So I talked a little bit, I gave a little brief intro about your past, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about kind of what brought you, along to be where you are now with Rater8, and also what Rater8 does, who you serve, et cetera. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and the company.
Yeah, so I started Rater8 in 2015. My wife and I were traveling. We were in Prague, checking into a nice hotel, and got a really bad check-in experience. And that really bothered me, and there was no real easy way to complain about this guy, Federico, who was our check-in person. And actually, we have a bee. If you go to our website, you'll see a bee as our mascot, and his name is Federico, after this hotel clerk. Checked us in, no good way to complain about him. And I remember thinking, boy, would I love to just have something pop up on my phone, kind of like Uber, you could rate the driver, where I could rate this Federico and really give my feedback. And I did get a survey from the hotel. It was 40 or 50 questions, and it didn't mention Federico specifically. So I said, I'm going to change that. And since I had owned an EHR company and knew the medical field very well, I figured, what about when you have a large office? I used to, like you said, I ran a practice. We had 4 offices. I have no idea what's going on in a satellite office, a far-flung satellite office. So what is the patient experiencing when they walk into the office? Are they getting the art of the warm welcome, right? So the very first version of the software was not about reputation management. It wasn't about surveys. It was just about rating people, doctors, and specifically check-in and check-out folks. And that's how it started. Like, how can we collect information about people so we could hold those folks accountable to providing excellent patient care and a great patient experience? And then later on, we added questions to the surveys, and we added benchmarking, and then we added reputation management. So it's the product's developed, and we lead with reputation management because that's a hot topic in healthcare today. But in our core and in our DNA is that patient feedback, patient satisfaction.
It's interesting to say that because, that opening story there, because, so much of reputation for a lot of patients goes, it's not just about the provider, but about, it could be that front door kind of stuff, right? The triage group, the front end people. Sometimes practices get hurt just from that alone. And it's funny, that was your first experience. You hadn't even been to the provider yet at that point.
Correct. It's the art of the warm welcome. And really the whole patient experience, the whole tone of the visit just starts right off when you walk in the door. Is it a nice office? Are the staff smiling? Are they providing a good experience for me? And I could love my doctor, but if someone upset me at the front desk or checkout, I'm going to walk out of there with a bad experience. And I'm not going to tell my friends that you got to go to this practice. So that art of the warm welcome is super, super important for any business.
So Evan, tell us a little bit. You talked about your experience there, which led you to the to Rater8. But now, what does Rater8 do, and who do you serve?
So we're a healthcare focused reputation management and patient feedback company, serving healthcare practices, large private equity roll up situations. So we have a 1 doctor practice and a 700 provider roll up, and we also service hospitals. We have almost 100 hospitals around the U.S. that use our software.
That's excellent. Excellent. Well, let's get into our conversation here. I've got a bunch of questions I want to ask you throughout our time together here. Let's start off with our first here. AI is everywhere, right? It's transforming how patients discover care in particular. Can you walk us through how AI-powered search is disrupting the traditional patient decision-making journey?
Yeah, so it's some really big changes afoot. I mean, AI is completely changing everything.
Mhm.
Just basic searches. Like if I want to know how long a colonoscopy takes, AI will tell me it's 30 to 60 minutes right on my browser.
Right.
And I'm not going to go to the results below that says the Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Kaiser, where they have articles. I'm just reading that summary. So first thing is AI is making it easier and faster for patients to get answers about anything. And it's also decreasing traffic to websites. And um, not as much in healthcare, but I
Hmm.
think you'll find in, just in any business. For example, if you type in what's the new tariffs that we have on Mexican goods, right?
Yep.
You'll see the summary. It says 25%. It was implemented in March of 2025. Great, got my answer. And I scroll down and I see Reuters and CNN and MSNBC, and I see all the stories that report that where Google is pulling from. But I'm not going to those websites and I'm not looking at the ads on those websites. I'm just getting my answer. So
Hmm.
the first thing is, um, from a patient's perspective, they're trying to find answers about procedures, about doctors, about care, about uh, patient satisfaction, reviews. Do other patients like this doctor? And it used to be I used to have to read through all the review sites. Now,
Right.
what Google and ChatGPT and all the engines do is they're taking any information they could find on the internet, pulling it into their LLMs, large language models, and then spitting out summaries for patients so that they don't need to go to the doctor's website and the bio page to read about them. They don't need to go to the Google listing or Health Grades Vitals or WebMD or Facebook and read the reviews. Google is just pulling all this information and displaying it for you, which again is super convenient for patients.
Hmm.
But it's also game changing, for websites. It's a completely different way of thinking about SEO. And we don't call this SEO, it's GEO, right? So it's generative engine optimization instead of search engine optimization. Search
Sure.
engine optimization was for websites and try to get people to
Mhm.
come to your website. Now we're trying to get people to read your content online about your practice and your doctors.
So is that AI summary you're talking about? Essentially, and forgive me if I'm using the wrong phrase to describe that, but the AI summary that happens at the top of your search page, right?
Mhm.
Are patients trained or custom now to say that's good enough? I'm going to take this. I trust what AI is doing here, generating it all, putting it there like you just said, and that's good enough for me. I know, or even that, one more. How the heck do they know where to go to get that
Mhm.
information though? Like to where to seek treatment?
All right, so a couple things. That was a multi-pronged question.
Sorry
You know,
about that. Yeah.
that's okay. We talk in our company and we ask and we have a town halls and we poll people. A lot of people trust AI and we find they're trusting it more and more, the answers. It's getting better and better. And some
Mhm.
people say, oh, no, I want to read the articles. I don't know, that some people talk about AI generated hallucinations where you get these weird answers. Again, happening
Right.
less and less. These models are improving, by day, it's seemingly. So the best and the brightest developers and programmers are working on this in the world, are working on this right now. So it's becoming more and more part of our daily routines. And I know
Mhm.
personally, I completely rely on AI and I find it a huge time saver. Second
Sure.
part of your question, what was it?
It was more or less so from that, how would a patient know where to go to get treatment?
So there's your typical search. So let's say where to get treatment. So how do you find care? You ask your primary care doctor.
Right.
Let's say your hip hurts. Who's a good orthopedic surgeon? They'll give you a few names.
Yep.
You'll ask your friends, hey, who have you used? You'll go on your Cigna or Aetna website and look at the directory and see who in your area accepts your insurance. So you get some
Mhm.
more names.
Yep.
And then there are other, which I do. There's just generic searches or local searches like who's the best orthopedic surgeon near me or who does the best hip replacements
Hmm.
near me. And those are local searches. And it used to be that I go, who's the best hip replacement surgeon near me? And Google would look through all the reviews, Google's reviews, and then display what's just like a Google Maps 3-pack, right? And it would show the top 3 results that match what you're looking for.
Mhm.
And those kind of searches, especially post-COVID, like people are moving all over the place. We have employees who are following their spouses because they have remote work, so they're following their spouses
Right.
to new jobs. They're working for a month in Europe. They're just picking up and trying different cities. And hey, I like Austin, Texas. I heard great things about that. So they're landing in a new place and they're just saying, who's the best orthopedic surgeon near me, and
Mhm.
finding care that way. So Google was serving up those results. What you're noticing now, more and more, when you do those searches, Google pushes that 3-pack, their recommendations, way down. You don't even oftentimes see it on the first page,
Mm.
and they start showing AI-generated search results. Say the best orthopedic surgeon near you is this, this, and this because they have high ratings, and they'll give some snippets about different practices and different doctors. So AI is quickly supplanting the standard search paradigm.
That's interesting too. And I guess so. Another question here for you, Evan, is even more specific to the providers, the practices that Rater8 works with. How should they be thinking about their online presence in light of all the changes you just discussed?
Right. So there's those changes, and then there's just you heard of a doctor. Like I said, remember you got a list of doctors. So your PCP gives you some names, and you just search Dr. John Smith reviews. So again, it used to be you'd see all the Google Healthcare's Vitals WebMD, and you'd have to click in. My old
Right.
search. New now just says if I type is Dr. John Smith a good doctor, which people is a good question to ask. Now it's starting to pull data from Google Healthcare's Vitals. Rater8 has, as part of our Rave product, the way we publish reviews online, we have listings for each doctor. It pulls from that and it starts summarizing that. There's testimonials widgets where doctor has a bio page and has their background and everything, and then it has all the testimonials that the patients are saying about. Google's
Yep.
taking that and then summarizing those as well. They'll even copy directly snippets of testimonials and put those, they call them AI snippets. There's AI summaries, it summarizes
Mhm.
data in AI snippets. They'll pull the snippets and display that. Um, so just searching for, is Dr. So-and-so a good doctor, or is ABC practice a good practice? Again, we don't have to go and read and dig in and click on all the review sites. Google's just summarizing it for you. And then right away you get a flavor for, you know, what's going on. Just like that original search I said about Mexican
Right.
tariffs. I don't have to go to those websites. Google does all the legwork for me, and then the citation. So Google will show on the left side the summary, and on the right side all the websites where they found that information. So if you want to go and check later on, you can. But again, a lot of the times you're just looking at that summary, and that's good enough for me.
Wow. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Talking the Walk on Healthcare Now Radio. I'm Tom Testa, and joining me today is Evan Steele, the founder and CEO of Rater8. Evan, I want to talk about this new AI-driven search landscape. Um, Obviously, it sounds like, of course, the patient reviews are evolving in importance, but how are they, and what separates a helpful review from one that gets ignored?
Okay, so helpful reviews, I look in terms of structure, right?
Hmm.
So first, the review has to, there's some review sites that there might be a review and Google might not, or ChatGPT might not prioritize it just because it doesn't have a lot of website authority and,
Right.
but the reviews need to be structured. The review pages that are created, so like I mentioned health grades or Rater8's verified review listing, they're
Mhm.
structured in a nice manner with a, date and timestamps and the review and the star rating. So Google could very easily crawl through these review sites and start consuming that data into their models. So I think that's a key point, is to be able to publish the data and publish it in multiple places, whether it's on a testimonials widget or a reviews widget on the doctor's bio page or on the practice's website, or publish reviews to Health Grades or Vitals or Google listings. So it's publish them and make sure that those pages are well structured so Google understands what it's reading and ChatGPT and all the other engines, they understand what they're reading so that if they can make sense of the data, they're going to use it and summarize it for you.
Hmm. That's great. It's interesting. And obviously the patient review is still so vital. And it's funny because I can't think of many, even of my own providers I've walked out of that haven't asked for something like that, a review. But clearly they're critical now, maybe more so than ever, given all the noise online, to see these reviews to help separate them from the rest.
Yep. And what's interesting is, you know, patients who are really peeved, like
Yeah.
if I'm really upset, I'm going to go put a 1-star review. I'm just really upset. But most times you go to the doctor and check-in was nice. Doctor, gave you some good advice. You walk out, you give it 5 stars. No reason not to, right?
Yeah.
If 5 stars is
Good
very easy.
experience. Yep.
But you don't go out of your way. You're not upset, so you don't go out of your way. So if you can make it really easy for a patient, like just a click or two, and then they're into on Google or Healthcare Advisor, and they're putting it in a review, patients will do it, right? Um, so it's just, how do you make it easy? Because if you don't, you get just generically,
Hmm.
if you're getting a lot of 1, 2, 3-star unhappy patients posting reviews, we find your average, if you're not doing anything, an average review for a star rating for a great doctor is 3.5 to 4 stars.
Hmm.
Because inevitably someone's going to get upset at something and puts that 1-star rating. But if you ask every single one of your patients to post a review in an easy manner, your average star rating, at least our tens of thousands of doctors that we have on the platform, is
Sure.
4.88 stars. So
Wow.
that 3.5, 4 goes up to 4.88. And it's just a true reflection of what patients are seeing. But the only way to get the true reflection online is to ask.
Yep. No, that's great. Um, you talked about too at the start of the answer to your last question about the power of structured review content. You used that phrase. What does that mean exactly? And how can practices use it to boost local SEO and visibility?
So what the practices should do. So I'm not a GEO SEO
Okay.
structure, right? We
Mhm.
have consultants that come in and they tell us what to do. Um, but there's structured data. So like I said, we have a testimonials widget. So take each doctor's page, we call them bio pages, it has their bio.
Yep.
Put a testimonials widget that has structured data. It has a schema and it tells Google what each data, it defines what each data element is. This is a star rating. This is a comment from the patient. This is the date. Make it structured, right? Just don't type some stuff on a website. Define the data fields. So we find that's really important in these
Yep.
large language models, understanding what that data is.
Okay. That's great. And that's something that you obviously consult, and that's something that you help develop for your clients, correct?
Correct. So we have that widget, or the testimonials. We also have
Yep.
this what's called the verified review listing. So you
Okay.
complete a survey and you said the doctor is I like the doctor, had a
Hmm.
great visit, gave me some great advice. How do you take that little snippet that the patient typed in the survey and publish it online, right? So we have what's called Rater8 verified review listings.
Yep.
Um, it gets published as a page for the doctor. And everything on that page is highly structured to let the large language models know exactly what they're reading, right? And Healthgrades does it very well, and Vitals and WebMD and Google itself, everything's structured. If you well structure it and you define the data, then
Hmm.
Google is or ChatGPT, any LLM is going to understand that data and be much more likely to use it and regurgitate it in their AI summaries.
That's great. Looking ahead, just to kind of get the crystal ball out for a second, how do you see local healthcare marketing adapting to stay relevant with all that's going on, especially with AI and the value of reviews and stuff like that? How do you think
Oh,
that these companies are going to help where they need to stay relevant?
right. So healthcare marketing needs to prioritize AI, being AI forward, AI first. You got to prioritize that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The landscape is just changing so rapidly. I don't know if you've noticed, but it seems by the day like there's just a new way that um, I use Google and I use Gemini, so I'm just using Google as the
Sure.
example, but a new
Hmm.
way that Google is summarizing data. Like we have this one doctor, Dr. Julian. Falla. You could say
Hmm.
like, is Dr. Julian Falla a good doctor? And Google actually creates a whole page of a whole big summary and in a whole and to pull snippets from the testimonials widget. It's almost like a new homepage for the doctor. Like you don't need the bio page. Google's making the doctor's webpage their
No
own
kidding.
webpage. So you got to be AI forward, AI first for practice. Because when you compare this wonderful page that Google's created to a
Mhm.
doctor that doesn't have a lot of structured data that we were just talking about,
Right.
um, you get nothing. You just look and it just kind of looks like the old search and it's not so helpful. So naturally, as a marketer, I want to make sure that that my patient feedback is highly visible and highly structured online, so that Google's going to, again, I'm using Google or any engine is going to make a page of data for me that's attractive, that's digestible, and that I'm going to use to decide which doctor to or which practice to use as my
Yeah.
provider.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. Especially talk about the profile page that AI
Mhm.
basically generates for these individual doctors and practices. It's interesting. Um, One final question for me here on how practices now we've talked a lot about what they're doing with their current patients, getting reviews, things like that. What should they do now to stay connected with prospective patients? What's the best approach there?
Well, I mean, all these searches, when I think of um, either SEO or GEO, I think of from a prospective patient standpoint. Although I'll tell you,
Hmm.
true story, I had a dermatologist that I used, once a year I'd go in for body check. And I once like went to call him, I looked them up and they had like 3.6 stars and
Right.
not a lot of good reviews. And even though I know 3.6 is typical if you're not doing anything, I'm like, well, am I really in the right place? I actually changed dermatology practices. Um, but so it's good, patients are especially on the phone, right? If I type my doctor, the first thing that shows up is the Google listing because Google kind of knows you want direction, and you'll see the star rating, and it's not a good look to see 3.6 stars. Like I wouldn't eat at a restaurant with 3.6 stars, like no way. And I'm not gonna
Correct.
trust my life and my health with a 3.6 star doctor. So it's important for existing patients. Also, you'll see like a lot of hospitals and big health systems, they'll spend if they're not, most of them aren't doing anything, and they typically have 2.8, 3.2, 3.3 stars. They spend all this money on billboards, right? But
Hmm.
they would never take the first thing patients see when they search for the like Intermountain Health or whatever. The first thing they see
Yep.
is that Google listing with 3.5 stars, let's say. They would never put that on a billboard. Yet that's their online billboard. So from a current patient perspective, like, am I at the right place? Do I trust this brand? Do I trust this doctor? Really important. Trust is very important. And then from new prospective patients for sure. They don't even step foot in the practice. So you have to try even harder to get them through the door versus all your competitors. So it's super important for prospective and patient for prospective and patients to have a you know feel good and feel like they could trust the doctor or the practice they're thinking of booking an appointment with.
And also trust in each other, you, Evan, me, myself, who's leaving these reviews too. Because even still, like you'd said earlier, there's like every now and then there's that 1 star review, and I go to search it out too to even see, hey,
Yep.
what was it? Was it because the coffee was cold in the,
Hmm.
in the front office, or was it really about the service? But yeah, even the trust in each other, because there's so much. Again, so a lot of people using reviews. It's something that we do in our everyday life with everything else, from when we're purchasing things,
Right.
like you said, to eating at a restaurant to healthcare too. So I feel there's a lot of trust
And
there. Would you agree?
trust comes with numbers. So like when I buy something on Amazon, if it has 4.8 stars and 16 reviews, I'm thinking whoever's selling this had all their friends buy it and post a review. But if there's
Very true.
a
Yeah,
thousand or 2,000, 3,000, it's hard to game that, right?
that's right.
So when I see a practice or a doctor with 1,000 reviews of 300,
Yeah,
even if they have a lower, let's say they have 4.8 stars and 300 reviews, someone else has 4.9 and 15 reviews. I trust that 300 a lot more than the 15 or 20.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Evan, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you very much for joining me. Best of luck to yourself and Rater8.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me on today.
If you'd like more information on Rater8 or are interested in connecting with Evan, visit their website at Rater8, that's the number 8.com. Thanks for joining us today on Talking the Walk. Tune in to hear us weekdays at 8:30 a.m., 4:30 p.m., and 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You can also find all of our episodes on the Talking the Walk program page on healthcarenowradio.com. If you're walking the talk, we want to talk to you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or by filling out the show's contact form on healthcarenowradio.com. Until next time, keep walking your talk. I'm Tom Testa. Take care, everyone.